Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write by Pandasaurus Games.
Pandasaurus Games has long been known for their dinosaur games. They first had Dinosaur Island, and just last year they had Dinosaur World. They've also had Dinosaur Island, or Dinosaur Island, the card game version of Dinosaur Island. Well, this is Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write, the roll and write version of Dinosaur Island. And you are going to be drafting dice that have been rolled to take different actions to write polyomino-like shapes onto your playing area. There's a lot of different mechanics going on with this one. Let's take a look down below, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, here's Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write, the roll and write version of Dinosaur Island, the very popular Pandasaurus game in which you run a dinosaur theme park. And you are going to be building buildings in this theme park, hiring staff, drafting dice, which are going to give you your different benefits, and then taking action selection with the dice that you draft, ultimately building your theme park in this area on your player sheet. And here are some of the dinosaurs that you are going to be making throughout the course of the game. In more detail, for setup of this game, you want to make sure you're playing on the right side of the board. As you see here, this is the 2 to 3 player game. If you have 4 players, you're going to flip this board over, and there are more spaces to put your dice down as you take your action selection in this game. And you are going to have 3 random buildings at the beginning of the game that you can be working towards. You're also going to have 3 random staff that you can hire. And there are more cards for more replayability in this game. Now you have 10 dice that you are going to be playing with. You're going to have all 10 dice put into the bag here. And whoever the first player is, they are going to draw a number of dice. Dependent on player count, it is 2 times the number of players plus 1. So in a 2-player game, that would be 5. And they will draw that number of dice and then roll them and place them out here in front of all the players. So for instance, let's go ahead and say that I draft these 7 dice because we're going to be acting like we're playing a 3-player game, and we will roll them and put them out here in front of everyone to draft. Now, starting with the first player, he or she will take 1 die, the second player will take the second die, and then the third player will actually take 2 dice. Again, and this is if it's a 3-player game, because you do snake drafting. So everyone's going to draft 1 die in clockwise order, and then starting with the last player, they're going to draft another die in reverse player order. There will be 1 die left over, so let's say that it's this one right here. All players are going to receive the benefit on that die, but they are also going to receive the threat on that die. Threat is going to be tracked right here. You are going to just simply mark 1 box with a dot for each threat that you get. So on that 1 die, there were 3 threats, so we will mark 1, 2, and 3. And players, again, are going to get whatever benefits are on the dice that they've drafted. Ignoring any threat that are on the 2 dice that they drafted, you are only gaining the threat on the die that is left over that all players receive. Then, using your 2 dice that you have drafted, starting with the first player, you're going to pick an action, placing your die in the available slot. And these actions are pretty self-explanatory. You are going to make dinosaurs. How that works real quick, you'll mark off whatever DNA that you have collected throughout the course of the game to make corresponding dinosaurs, and you can see the requirements to make that particular dinosaur. When you make your first dinosaur, so let's say it's this Velociraptor right here, spinning a yellow and a teal color DNA, I will mark a box right here. If it's my first one, I would obviously mark this first box. And then if it is my first one, I'm going to draw this shape somewhere in my park. So for instance, this is a 3x3 grid. I might do it right here like so. And that's an awful 3x3 grid, but you get the idea. I'm also going to add the letter that is in the color there, so you can see this V is purple. I will add that letter into this box to indicate this is my Velociraptor paddock. Now I only do this for the first Velociraptor I make.
If I make a second, third, or fourth, I'm going to mark off the corresponding boxes right there like so. For each dinosaur that I make, I do increase my threat, but I also increase my excitement. Excitement is kept track right here on this player board. You can see that this is one that I've already used. And as you go throughout the course of the game, you are going to gain bonuses. You don't gain those immediately, though. That's something you're going to gain at the end of a season. You also are going to get points for starting new rows. Just simply having one box marked off in a row is going to earn you the number of points at the end of that row. So you want to try to get as much excitement in your park before the end of the game. Back to our board right here, you can get money or increase your security. Security is going to be very important because you want to draw circles around each one of these boxes that has a dot in it. We'll come back to why you want this. If you've played any Dinosaur Island game, you'll know why. And then you can extract DNA. So you can get 2 basic DNA or 1 advanced. Again, keeping track of that right here on your player board. You can duplicate a die. So if you place one of your dice right here, you're going to get 2 times what is on that die. All other players are going to gain 1 time what is on this die. So this particular die right here gives you 2 different DNA. You'll get that twice. So you'll get 4 DNA if you're the player putting that die there. Now, if you place one that has a slash on it, you have to pick which side you want to gain. Now, your last spot here is that you can build 3 roads or you can build a building. So let's talk about what that means, because that is unique to this particular roll and write game. So what you are trying to ultimately do is you're trying to build a park. Here's an example from a completed game. You're trying to build a park that connects pathways from your HQ here to exits throughout your park. You can see here that this particular player did a very good job of connecting 5 different exits to the HQ. And the little lines that are in between the buildings, those are roads. And your roads are going to go straight or they can curve. As you can see, that one right there curves into the T building. And that is because that player took the road action here. Now, when you gain roads, you are going to put them immediately in your park somewhere, or you can stash them. Same thing with coins. You've got a little small bank here to stash up to 5 max throughout the course of the game. As you use these, you will you'll put a little mark here indicating I have a road to use. As I've put it somewhere out here on my board, then I'm going to mark this off, and I cannot use that box again. I can only use the next 4 throughout the course of the game. Money, I didn't mention this earlier, but when you gain money, you can either put it in your bank, same way as the roads work, or I'm going to spend it on a building or on a staff member here. So how this works, at the beginning of the game, you have these cards that are dealt out. And they have a cost here in the top right corner. Buildings at max are going to cost 10, and staff at max are going to cost 5. And you just basically need to keep track of how much money that you are spending. So this is the C slot here. And so I would keep track of the money that I spend towards that C building right here. I need 9 coins before I can say that I have built that building. When you build a building, you're going to gain the immediate benefit. So you can see what those are. Same thing with the staff. There will be an immediate benefit for the staff hiring them. And then there will also be an ongoing benefit that's going to happen at the end of each season. We'll come back to that here in just a second. There are 3 staff members that are going to be available to you in every game: the security chief, the tour guide, and the junior scientist. Again, providing their own immediate and ongoing benefits. Now, one last thing here, when you are placing dice, you can place a die on top of another player's dice. So say this player placed a die there, and then the next player wanted to go there as well. You can stack your die on top of their die, but you are going to gain whatever threat is on that die. So that is something you have to keep track of, be aware of whenever you're playing. Also, at any time, you can always pay 2 coins for an advanced DNA, a road, or increasing your security by 1. After everybody has put their dice out here, gained their benefits, taking their actions, then you're going to collect up all the dice, including the ones that weren't drawn from the previous round. You are going to move the tracker to the next die, and first player is going to rotate. That player is going to draw 5 more dice from the bag, or however many that you are playing with for that game, and you're going to repeat the process. So you're going to do that 2 times before you get to an end of season cycle. So how this works, you're going to look on your player board here and you're going to see that there's an arrow, and that arrow indicates you're going to follow this pathway for an end of season. The first thing is, if you have any of these buildings that you have built, because perhaps maybe you took the build action there, and you have them drawn somewhere into your park, then you're going to gain the benefits listed underneath the different buildings. Perhaps rolling a die and gaining the benefit, increasing your excitement because you built a ride, or increasing your money because you have a food restaurant somewhere built into your park. After you do your attractions, that's phase 1, you're going to move to phase 2, your specialists, gaining their benefits. You can see here the ongoing benefits. The security chief is going to give you increased security. Tour guide's going to give you more roads. Junior scientist is going to allow you to make more dinosaurs. And then you'll gain the ongoing benefits from your different staff members that you have hired from over here. After you do your specialists, then you're going to do a dino tour. So coming back to our completed tour here, or page from a previous game, you're going to draw an imaginary line starting at your HQ through different buildings, connecting them to an exit. So for instance, we have connected exit 4 here to the HQ. And for each building you pass through, you're going to increase your excitement by one little notch here. And then you're going to draw an X in those buildings to indicate you've used that building, and you're not going to get excitement again using another path through that building. You can still go through the building, but you want to try to connect it to different exits. And at the end of the game, for each exit that you have connected, you're going to score that number of points. So you want to try to connect as many exits as you can. After you do your HQ, then you're going to gain your bonuses from your excitement track. You can see here you're going to gain money, you're going to gain DNA, and you are going to increase your security, which is important because then you are going to do the death toll. So at the end of a season, you're going to come back to your threat tracker here, and for each dot that you have that is not circled, you are going to have a death in your park, keeping track of it here in this little chart. And each time you have to mark off an exclamation point, you have a catastrophe or a disaster that's going to happen, and you're going to have to choose one of the available options to you right here. And I'm not going to go over all of them, but do note that there is an explanation here in the rulebook for what they do. After that, then you are going to come back to this board here and move into the next season. If it's the end of the 3rd season, then you're just going to go into final scoring. And you've got a nice little score tracker right here that keeps track of your score. That's the game. Whoever has the most is going to be the winner. Now, when playing with non-gamers, you do want to make sure that you take out the advanced cards from each deck. They are going to have this little icon on them. And so you do have quite a few cards of both decks that you are going to take out. And as you get more advanced into this game, you can add them to your normal decks and have a whole bunch of replayability in this game. The other thing you want to make sure that you let your non-gamers know about is how this flows, because once you let them see how this flows, one thing leads to another, which leads to another. That's going to really help them to understand this game a whole lot better. You're going to want to make sure that they understand that they are going to be putting these buildings out here. You cannot have your buildings touching, by the way. Even the corners cannot touch. You have to have at least one space in between all buildings. That's very important. Otherwise, this is a very intuitive game. It's quite simple once you know the flow of a turn. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Let's take a look of the insert real quick. Get a nice plastic insert with this one. There are wells for dice and cards. You can even put your Automa cards in there. Extra wells for the Kickstarter exclusives, the rule book, and player sheets go on top. Works great. And there you go. That is Dinosaur Island, Rawr and Write. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one.
And we're back, and now we're going to show you some gameplay footage of a game between Sam and I in Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write. So Sam, you and I have played Dinosaur Island, the card game version. We played that a long time ago. We actually played that after we had our third child, and we were in the hospital after you gave birth.
Ask me how I felt about that.
Well, to be completely honest with the viewers out there, I don't think that was a game that either one of us really enjoyed much. I didn't enjoy it for the fact that it didn't really feel like Dinosaur Island.
And I didn't enjoy it because I just had a child.
Right. Well, and it just wasn't one that you really enjoyed regardless. You've never played Dinosaur Island or Dinosaur World because those are heavier games that I wouldn't ever ask you to play with me in. But this here is the roll and write version of Dinosaur Island, and we ventured out with this one. We tried it out, as you guys are seeing right here, right now. And what were your thoughts getting into this game?
Well, if we had a theme the last 2 months, I think it'd be roll and write games. So
Okay.
I think Lance is determined to make me like these. These are not my favorite games. They're a hard sell for non-gamers, I think.
Okay.
So I kind of went into this with this exact same thought, like this is just not going to go well. But I will say I was very pleasantly surprised with this game. It went really well. I enjoyed it. I would play it again.
Okay.
I don't think I've said that about a roll and write before.
Wow. All right. So we're already getting into your thoughts on this, that you really enjoyed this one. What did you enjoy?
It flowed well, and that has been the biggest problem I've had with roll and write games. You're rolling, and there's just typically a lot going on, and finding the connection, sometimes it's just not there, or there's just way too much going on. And I felt like this game reined it in. There's still a lot going on, but they're connected well. They flow well, and it makes sense as you're playing it. I just think they did a really good job with the whole dynamic of this game.
Yeah, I think the word that I keep coming back to with this is that it's intuitive.
Yes.
It seems like one thing leads to the next, which leads to the next, and it all meets with the theme. It makes sense. You feel like you're actually doing something here to make this happen next, to make that happen next.
Yes.
It all seems to really work well. And you're right, it teeters on that fine line of being too rules heavy, that it's too clunky and it's too difficult, too much work to understand. But like you said, it reins it in off of that edge, and it becomes something that I really feel like, even though it's got a lot of rules, it's all intuitive, and I really seem to understand it.
I think a lot of times when we're playing roll and write games, Lance kind of knows it's a game where I'm going to be asking a lot of questions because I just can't remember, what can I do? Where can I go next? And after a couple rounds of this game, I could do it. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what came next. It's very intuitive. Yeah,
for sure. I think, this is going to be, if you're gonna play a Dinosaur Island / Dinosaur World game with a non-gamer, this is gonna be the one that will more than likely work best for you because everything is so intuitive. It strips away a lot of the peripheral rules and stuff that you get in Dinosaur Island that makes it a fuller experience, but also a more complex experience. And you don't have that here in the Rawr and Write game. And I think that's a good thing because it works well when playing with a non-gamer. For me, I absolutely enjoyed the polyominoes of writing them into my playing area, my park, and needing to connect them in such a manner to draw a tour line to get to the exits. I thought that was a cool addition to the game. It's one that I'm confused why they named this game Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write and not Dinosaur World Rawr and Write. The reason I say that, if you've played Dinosaur World, you'll know that doing the Jeeple tour, which is essentially what this is, you're doing a tour of your park connecting an entrance to an exit, that's only in Dinosaur World, not Dinosaur Island. So to have that be such a main fixture with this game, it's confusing to me that they called it Dinosaur Island, because that's not in that game. It's in Dinosaur World. whatever. That's not a knock on the game necessarily. In fact, that's a pro for me. I really enjoyed it. Just wondered why they named it what they did. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, Sam, everything sort of worked for you, even though it was a heavier experience, and you had a lot of fun with it, huh?
Yeah, I really did. I think the only aspect of the game that I probably didn't utilize a whole lot was
the staff. Yeah,
the staff. And that's not a pro or a con. It's just maybe a little extra. I think you could have done without it, and you would have been fine. I mean, I won this game,
she beat me. Yeah.
I don't think I utilized that at all or much.
Yeah, and I've played it a few times now, and you do have to be, money is tight in this game, and so you do have to be very selective about where you're spending your money, because the more staff you get, the more likely you are to complete other things that you need to get points. And so you do have to be very selective of where you're spending your money, and you're not likely to get all 3 staff, if even 1 staff in a game. And so you just have to be very selective with it. And I think that's a part of the game that's not a huge part of the game, but it is one that you're kind of like, man, I don't even feel like I really utilized it. Let's get into pros and cons on this. What were the things you really enjoyed about this one?
Like you said, it was the intuitiveness of it. Just knowing, being aware of what I'm supposed to do next. As a non-gamer, that's huge. When I can feel like I can play the game on my own and I'm not constantly having to ask questions, that makes a big difference in my confidence in playing the game. And I mean, I won, so I either cheated
you didn't
or accidentally cheated, or I mean, I did understand the game, which I think is the case, and I think that's really big for a non-gamer.
And as a gamer, when I'm playing with somebody who is asking a lot of questions or doesn't just really seem to understand it, not that it's not because I have to re-explain it, but it's because I don't think that person's enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like, man, this is really starting to become a dud. It's not working well, and that limits my amount of fun that I get to experience from it. So when I feel that person isn't having to really wrestle with, well, what am I doing here, or what happens next again, or how do I use this? When I feel like they do understand it, then I'm starting to feel like, okay, they get it. This is working. This is a good experience. And that livens the game up for me. So it works both ways when it comes to that particular intuitiveness. What else did you like about this?
I really did enjoy putting my buildings.
Okay. The polyominoes.
Yeah, I like spatial awareness, or what do you call it? Spatial
games.
Yeah, spatial games. I like that. I really enjoyed designing my park and making sure the entrances are close to it and everything. It was kind of like a game inside a game without being too complicated, whereas a lot of roll and writes, they may have a game inside of a game and it just feels redundant or like too much.
Added on.
But this was every aspect of this game added to the enjoyment of the whole game.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Any cons?
I mean, there's a lot going on, and so I think you do need to be aware. But again, it's so intuitive that it works really well. But from the beginning, it may look very overwhelming for a non-gamer.
I will say, folks, and obviously these are just our thoughts, as is the case in every review. You can't just say, well, this reviewer said this game works great, and it's a blanket wide statement. It works for everybody in the world. That's ridiculous. These are just our thoughts, and so I will say your mileage may vary in terms of how intuitive will the people you play it with feel that this game is. As a whole, I think this game is more intuitive than most other games of this heaviness, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think more often than not, this game will work with non-gamers.
I think it's because of that intuitiveness that you can play with a non-gamer. I would say if it wasn't that, then this probably wouldn't be a good game for non-gamers.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. What are you going to give Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write?
I really liked this game.
Wow.
And this'll I don't think I will ever rate a roll and write as high as I'm about to rate this one.
You mean this is your favorite roll and write of all time?
I mean, I don't like any other roll and write, so I would say sure, yes, because I did enjoy it. But I really did like this game, and
Okay.
I thought it flowed really well. I'm probably going to give it an 8.1.
Whoa, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
get you to like roll and writes
I
after
don't
all.
think so, but I like this one. That's not a challenge to other creators out there.
Well, guys, I really enjoyed Dinosaur Island Roar and Write as well. In fact, it's been one of my favorites to have played here recently. Technically, this was a 2021 game. I'll be honest, I picked it up at Gen Con in September, and we didn't actually get to play it
It probably would have made it on our top 10 list.
It probably would have
though.
been on a top 10 list if we had played it last year. We
Yeah.
didn't play it until 2022, so our apologies on that end. But I really, really like this one. It's one of my more favorite games in the Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World games. It's one that I think is going to definitely hit the table more often than Dinosaur Island. I don't own Dinosaur World, but if I did, I'd point at that as well. Just simply for the fact of how easier it is to play with a vast array of people and not just heavy gamers. So because of that, I'm going to give it an 8.3, right there where Sam's at. I think we've said all the things that work so well with this game, and there's not a whole lot of cons.
Yeah.
It's something that it hits the high marks in all areas for both of us. So not a whole lot of games do that, and this one does. So it deserves the praise that we're giving it, I feel like. So that is Dinosaur Island Roar and Write from Pandasaurus Games. Go check it out.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.